Are you a startup looking to lease commercial property or a commercial space and don't know really where to begin? Well, you came to the right video. My name is Robin. I'm a vice president at Lincoln Property Company here in Orange County. I've had tons of experience over the course of my many years in commercial real estate working with startup concepts and helping them navigate the challenges to basically open up their first location, whether it's an office space, industrial space, and or a retail space. And so if you are a startup that's looking to lease space in the year 2023, here are my 5 helpful tips to basically help you get on your way. So first things first, guys, is it is so important to have a dialed in business plan. I've worked with many startups that will just start their search kind of on a whim. They'll be trying to do a bunch of things all at once, not having really a game plan in place, and that usually, guys, sets them up for failure. So first things first, even before you're out there searching for property, my recommendation is have a dialed in business plan. It should explain your story, what your business is about, and or a mission statement. How many employees do you have? What is your target customer base? What are your business hours? Maybe you're a business that was predominantly an e-commerce business, or you were working off of social media and now you're taking the first step to open up a physical location. Well, then your business plan should definitely highlight that. And the reason that's important, guys, is throughout these tips, the hallmark of these tips are going to be about making yourself look really good when you are presenting yourself to an ownership, right? An ownership is going to look at you in the form of, hey, what is the risk profile of this tenant? If we look to lease space to this person and or business, are they going to succeed at this location, or are they going to have trouble paying rent? And I, as a landlord, I'm just going to have the headache of having to kick them out in 6 months and lease up the space again, and that was just a headache. So again, you want to approach it from the standpoint, much like a job interview, that it's all about setting yourself up for success and making sure you present yourself in a manner that reflects well. And so it starts off by doing all your homework, having a dialed in business plan, understanding how many employees you have, and being strategic about it. Number 2 helpful tip is have an idea of how much space you need. And that's very important. Don't just wing it. Take the time. And that should really come from understanding it first. How many total employees is your business going to have? That's going to be a great starting point of how much space you need. And if necessary, guys, go out there and search for a space planner. Tell them, hey, this is what my business does. This is how many employees I have. Help me put together a layout, an efficient layout, and let me know how much space I should plan on potentially leasing if this comes to fruition. So that's very important. Have an idea of how much space you're going to need. That's also going to dictate, right, what your ultimate rent will end up being. So a very important and a helpful tip. Number 3, guys, again, if you are a new novel concept, you're not going to have any corporate tax returns to go off of. All most ownerships really care about is whoever is signing their lease. It's important to have an understanding of their financial strength. So if it's one person signing the lease individually, then that person's last 2 or 3 years of personal tax returns may be requested. An ownership could definitely request bank statements as well. So you want to all have that ready to go. If you have a unique use or a specialized use and you potentially are going to need to foot money to do your tenant improvements and or build out, you may want to seek a bank and see if financing is available for you. I know a lot of startup medical professionals and or dentists seek special programs offered by banks to assist in financing the construction costs that are needed to build out their space. So look into that and definitely have an understanding, and it's all going to depend on your use. Now, if you're like an insurance company or just a standard general office user, you may not necessarily need to go that route, and you could work with a landlord and maybe have them assist in doing some new paint, new carpet, again, but that's all negotiable and usually depends on the lease term length. But another reason financials going to be important to have ready to go is because if you don't have them ready to go, or they're just not looking great, guys, then that's going to really impact how heavy of a security deposit that ownership could require from you. And guys, I've done deals with startups where if the financials necessarily weren't impressive or didn't reflect well, the ownership sometime could give you a chance and take that risk, but then they could either request like a full year of rent right up front or a security deposit as high as up to 6 months of rent, if not higher. So you definitely want to be mindful of that, and having your financials ready to go is going to be very important. All because why, guys? You want to make sure you reflect yourself in a positive light as you are talking to these ownerships, specifically if it's an ownership in a desired area that you've always wanted to lease. So have your financials ready to go. Seek the necessary financial advisors to help clean that up for you if necessary. My fourth tip, guys, is going to be work with a commercial real estate broker if you can. And if you're calling around and you're driving by, you're going to see a lot of contacts. You've probably seen commercial leasing signs with names and numbers, license numbers as well. If you're working with a bigger brokerage, usually they're more than happy to have some of their junior associates work on the assignment for you. But what my recommendation would be, just not as a broker who did this early on in my career, is if you're a startup, be mindful of their time, because these young junior associates are going to go the extra mile. They're going to hustle. They're going to make the calls. They're going to definitely put in the effort for you. If weeks go by and they don't hear from you, or it basically ends up becoming a scenario where they're actually wanting all of this more than you, it's not going to really result well. You could end up getting dropped by the broker. So just be mindful that it's actually to your advantage to seek representation and work with a commercial real estate broker who has a good understanding of your specific market and has the inroads to actually help you get into some of the properties that you are evaluating as a potential location to open up your business. But just don't waste their time. And I remember early on, an example, I was actually working with a startup concept. It was like an auto use of some sort. And auto uses tend to have a challenging time, especially if they're new, right? Because if a landlord has been also burned by someone in your industry, that, also makes it a lot more challenging, because now you're a new concept, but you're also in the similar industry, and then this landlord has a bad experience with someone in that specific industry. So I was doing this search for this person, and man, I was hunting and trying to schedule all these tours, and basically had everything kind of dialed in. And that's just how I normally operate as a broker. But I wouldn't hear from the guy for like a few days. And I'm like, well, hey, what's going on here? Do you want to pursue this venture or not? Like, I shouldn't want it more than you. And that's what I'll harken back to, is that your broker shouldn't want, or your representative shouldn't want the venture more than you, who's the captain behind the ship. Work with good CRE broker if you can. There are good ones out there. And I'm not talking about the ones where you'll call and you're not going to hear, you're not ever going to get a call back. Just don't waste a broker's time, and find a good one that's willing to go the extra mile for you. It could definitely help you in this whole process. And the last step, guys, or the last tip, guys, is going to be persistent. This could take a few months. I've worked with startups where from the initial contact to the actual moment that they actually open up the location could even take as long as a year, or if not more. Again, it also just depends on how challenging your specific use is, right? If you're doing something where you're trying to open like a batting cage or a daycare, these are all kind of somewhat could deviate from normal uses for each specific asset class. So you want to be patient, following all these steps to the T to basically set yourself up for success. But understand you have to be patient. And if you work with a good professional, employ the right resources, I'm sure you'll end up opening up that first location. So I wish you guys tons of success. And if you have any comments, leave that in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. I'll be sure to make some more content. As always, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.